I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast, part of the 90 Min Football Network. As ever, I'm your host, Harry Symeou, and on this edition, we're going to be discussing the news that broke just a couple of hours ago. Well, maybe a bit longer than that, 3-4 hours ago. I'm a bit slow today, but we're going to be discussing the news regarding Fabio Vieira. And the news is that Arsenal have agreed a deal with FC Porto for the signing of the creative midfield player. Wow, 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 wow. This came completely out of nowhere. This caught us all by surprise. And while I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know every single thing about Fabio Vieira or to even suggest that, you know, this is 100% a signing that's going to work and it's going to elevate us to that next level, the more I'm reading about him, the more I'm studying about him, the more I'm researching about him, the more optimistic and the more positive I am. But the sweetest thing about this for me is it just proves that even when we as fans don't necessarily know what's going on, even when we as fans don't know of a link, don't know of a connection, don't know of a negotiation, it doesn't mean that the club are sitting there idle doing nothing. This is the proof in the pudding that Arsenal are working hard behind the scenes this summer to get things done. And the proof that Arsenal are willing to spend money, because, I mean, look, let's be honest. Fabio Vieira is an attacking midfield player who's played his best football for Porto this season and the season just gone, I beg your pardon, since he's broken into the team in the centre of midfield as an attacking midfielder. So that's not a position that I would have said was necessarily right at the top of the priority list. But even still, Arsenal have gone and lumped 35 million euros on the player. And now you feel as though it's kind of setting the tone for what's going to come. Also, what I haven't put in the title is that Sky Sports are now reporting this evening, just a little short while ago, that those negotiations with Gabriel Jesus are ongoing. And we've heard earlier today that they're actually moving forward. So there's quite a bit to be positive about today. And it makes a stark change to what we were sort of feeling like and talking about just a couple of days ago. Before we dive into it, because I'm going to do a little bit of a breakdown on Fabio Vieira, I'm going to share with you guys what I know about the player. I'm going to get your thoughts from the chat. So much to get through. I want to say a massive thank you to everybody that is live with us right now. We've been going for 2 minutes and we've already got 300 people in the stream. I don't think there's ever been as many people waiting for a Chronicles of a Gooner stream to start as there was today, which is pretty incredible. So thank you all so much. A big welcome to those of you who join us regularly. A big welcome to those of you who may be here for the first time, who may be joining me for the first time. And a very special thank you to the Fort Lauderdale Gooner, Craig. There you go. I said it right this time. Who's just signed up to be a member of the channel. Now, I know that some of you have signed up as members and not kept your memberships going. And I understand why, because the membership content has been few and far between. Other than the Discord server, which you guys are brilliant in and interact, there's not been enough members content. I know that. I know that. And there are plans in place to really pick that up. So if you do fancy supporting the channel on our quest to deliver you daily Arsenal content, then please do consider becoming a member of the Chronicles of a Gooner via the link in the description. Okay, lots and lots of people in the chat, but I want to give a special shout out to Stephen Foote, who's been joining us every single day from the Royal Free Hospital. I had the pleasure of meeting Stephen at the Hippodrome Casino event that we did a little while ago with the Highbury squad, Lee Judges TV, etc., and all the guys there. He's a delightful man, and I wish him all the best. He says, hopefully I'm going home tomorrow. Arsenal are the ITK. Brilliant. And Stephen, wish you all the best, mate, and hope you'll be home very, very soon. Look, we're going to do lots and lots of reaction, and I'm going to get your thoughts, and I want to know where you're tuning in from a little bit later in the show. But I just want to bring you guys first and foremost my breakdown on Fabio Vieira, because ultimately I'm going to forget it all because it's fresh in my mind. I want to get into it as soon as possible. so that I don't miss any of the key points that I want to put across with regards to Fabio Vieira. So let's start with the surprise of it all, because this was a huge surprise, right? Not a single Arsenal fan out there had predicted that we'd move for this player. Not a single Arsenal fan out there had even seen any links, really. It completely came out of nowhere. Pedro Sepulveda, I think I've said that right, a Portuguese journalist, broke the story this afternoon that a deal had been agreed between Arsenal and Porto for the signing of Fabio Silva. So, as I made the kind of brief point earlier on, this just goes to show that Twitter doesn't know it all. And so if you're going to get upset with your football club, and if you're going to let your club sort of get you down in the dumps at this point in the summer, then at least, just be aware and mindful of the fact that it's not all what it's cracked up to be on Twitter, right? Somebody on Twitter can come up with a report and it can be complete nonsense and it can spark a meltdown. We've seen things saying that Arsenal aren't going to spend any money this summer. We've seen things saying that Arsenal are desperately reliant on player sales in order to bring people in. We've seen people saying that Arsenal are missing out on primary targets. We're seeing people saying that Arsenal don't have a plan. Well, they clearly do have a plan, because we've heard of this deal just prior to its point of completion. This is not one of those things that's been rumbling on and on and on and on and on. We had no idea about this, and bang, the fee has been agreed. Bang, the personal terms have been agreed. And tomorrow he's apparently flying over for a medical. So that goes to show that we don't always know, we don't always know how something plays out. We don't always know about everything that's going on. Sometimes we have a good idea. There's a lot of brilliant journalists out there, brilliant reporters who do get the inside scoops, who do get the lines, and they do share them with us, and it's great. It's fantastic to have that additional knowledge that we have nowadays that we maybe didn't have in decades gone by. But what I would say is we do not know everything. So even when you think nothing is going on, you're probably wrong, particularly at a time like this, particularly when Arsenal have made a point in the past of emphasizing how important this upcoming transfer window was going to be. To then think that they'd go into it and Edu would be on a yacht somewhere cooking a barbecue and not paying any attention to the transfer market while Mikel Arteta was on holiday playing tennis or whatever he was doing. To think that there was nothing happening and nothing cooking in the background is completely misled and completely untrue. And this proves that. Before we get into the player, one of the other big points I want to make about this, which I find really, really interesting, is who has been involved in this deal. Because Jorge Mendes has been involved in this, one of the game's notorious super agents. And in the past, we've been critical of saying, Arsenal don't deal with these super agents. And sometimes Arsenal have missed out on really, really good and strong talents because of, for example, in the past, Arsene Wenger's refusal to deal with them. And then when Edu first came in and started doing a number of deals that involved Kia Joorabchian, another one of these super agents, the criticism was, well, he's only going to go after Joorabchian players because of that relationship. But Edu has clearly forged a relationship here. Maybe it was a prior relationship. Maybe it's something that's been built along the way in this negotiation. But what you've seen is that Edu is open to dealing with these agents, these super agents, and Edu is able to do business with them, which opens the door to some of the world's most talented players. Now, I'm not saying that you should solely lean towards those guys or that you should never consider transfer targets from any of those, from any of the other representatives, any of the other agencies. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, though, is sometimes you have to make a deal with the devil to get the best players. These super agents, they're super agents for a reason, because they go around and they hoover up the best talent. And if you have to negotiate with them in order to get what you want, then that's the way it is. And Edu has struck a deal. Arsenal, as a collective, have struck a deal with one of these super agents, another one, not one that had previously been on our radar. So that gives me encouragement that they are doing the right things in the transfer market, that they are knocking on the right doors, and that they are doing what's necessary in order to try and make sure that we can be as competitive as possible in the transfer market and attract some of the best talents around. Now, Fabio Vieira is a player that was on my radar prior to today, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that he was right at the top of my list. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I thought he was a world beater, but what I do know about him now puts me in a slightly better position to comment. I have spent some time this afternoon looking into him, and deeper than just the YouTube compilations. I have looked at a couple of those as well, of course. I do love a YouTube compilation. But I've done some digging, and I've tried to come up with a little bit more information on the player and a little bit more insight into what it is exactly that Arsenal are getting. I beg your pardon. Hay fever is still killing me. So if you see me reach for a tissue to wipe my nose in the middle of the stream, I do apologize. Take a sip of the wine. Cheers, everybody. How unprofessional. But anyway, it's my channel. I can do what I want. So where does he play? Predominantly, he plays through the center of midfield as an attacking midfielder, as the more advanced of the midfielders. And as a consequence of playing in that position, he's been a real consistent provider for Porto. 39 appearances in the season just gone, 16 assists and 7 goals in all competitions. Now, the goals thing doesn't really jump out at me. I mean, 7 goals for an attacking midfielder, it's not bad. It's not terrible, but it's not amazing either. Like, you don't look at his goal tally and go, wow, well, that's incredible. He's going to come here and he's going to, score us, I don't know, 15 to 20 goals. Like, you don't get that vibe from it. But the vibe you do get is that this is a guy who consistently provides. And when I dug a little bit deeper into the assists part, I found that he averages 2.3 key passes per 90, which puts him right towards the top of that sort of percentile. Also, add to that, where he scores really strongly in other metrics is really, really interesting for me. Counter pressing is something that he scores very, very highly in, something that Mikel Arteta has been keen to add to the team, something that Mikel Arteta is clearly big on. Recoveries in the final third is another thing in which he ranks really, really highly. So he ticks a lot of those boxes. But then the question that kept sort of going over and over and over in my mind as I was sort of reading this earlier on today, and because I remember when I read the story initially, I was traveling and I was looking at it and I was going, okay, let me think about this. Let's have a little bit of a look into it, as much as you can possibly do sort of on the road. But the question that I kept coming back to was, he's a central attacking midfield player. And so where does he fit? How does he fit into Arsenal's side? Martin Odegaard has established himself as a really key player under Mikel Arteta, and there's a lot of talk that he could end up being Arsenal's captain next season. So surely he's not going to be dropped from the side. Surely, though, playing Martin Odegaard slightly to the right, Fabio Vieira slightly to the left, and Thomas Partey as a lone defensive midfield pivot, or as a lone defensive midfield cover, I guess. Surely that means that we would be disrupting the structure, the defensive structure of the side. And that would worry me as well. One of the reasons I've been so big on Yuri Tielemans and why I still want Arsenal to go out and do that deal is because I think that Yuri Tielemans gives you that perfect balance between someone who can get up and down the pitch, be impactful defensively, can counter press, can be aggressive in the final third, but also add something to your team going forward. Add something to your team in terms of an attacking threat, in terms of a goal threat, in terms of being able to provide assists. But to have Vieira and Odegaard both in the same midfield would worry me. I think it would impact our defensive structure negatively. And so, for me, the place in which he fits best is probably on the right-hand side, probably as a right winger. And then when I've done a little bit more digging and a little bit more sort of reading and a little bit more research into the player, I found that actually when he first broke into the Porto side, he predominantly played as a right winger. But then when I went a little bit further, he's not just played as a right winger, he's played as a left winger. He's played as a central attacking midfielder. He's played at times for Porto as cover at left back. It's clearly a player who's versatile, and clearly a player that Mikel Arteta feels can fit in anywhere across that line. And I'm talking about attacking midfield, left wing, right wing, maybe even as a false nine. And that, I think, is what's probably convinced Mikel Arteta that it's worth spending 35 million euros plus add-ons to get him into the club. I don't think that he is coming in to be the number 10. I think he's coming in as someone who can play that role if we need him to, as someone who can play from the left if we need him to, but also someone who can play from the right and give Bukayo Saka a little bit of a breather. Not only can he give Bukayo Saka a little bit of a breather, but can give something different to Arsenal in that he will more naturally drift into different spaces. He will start from narrower positions because of his style of play, and that will create spaces for the overlaps on the outside as well. So I think that when you take all of that into consideration and the fact that we're going to have the ability to make 5 changes per game, to have him as an option is a really, really good and smart piece of business. And I go back to what I said before. The fact that we have just gone and dumped this amount of money on a player that isn't seen by many as being a priority in terms of his position suggests to me that Arsenal mean business this summer. And it sends out a really, really positive message. I really do believe that. Let me just say a big hello to a very close friend and a very esteemed colleague, the brilliant Alfie Reynolds over at TalkSport. How you doing, mate? Welcome to the show, mate. I just saw your WhatsApp out of the corner of my eye. Welcome to the program, man. Really good to have you here. Alfie's fantastic, brilliant on the radio, brilliant producer, brilliant reporter, you name it. Alfie can do it. So get over on Twitter and give Alfie a follow at Alfred's Reynolds 5. And you'll be able to check out all his brilliant work as well. He does all sorts of excellent stuff, and he's a top lad. So make sure you get over there and give him a follow. So yeah, I think that this sends out a really positive message. I do. I think that we can start to be a little bit excited. Like we can start to get a little bit excited about what the window might hold. And as I spoke about earlier, as I alluded to a little bit earlier on, the fact that the Gabriel Jesus thing seems to be going somewhere, the fact that the Yuri Tielemans deal is one that people are still talking about as something that's very likely to happen. All of that gives me great encouragement that we are going to go out there and have a good window. And I'll tell you what, you can talk about Spurs all you like. And, you know, I try and remain professional, and I will to the best of my ability. But this is an Arsenal channel. And let's be honest, if Arsenal go out and get Yuri Tielemans, Gabriel Jesus, Fabio Vieira, and a defender, because I think that we need a defender as well. So if you get those 3 big signings, we've also added Marquinhos to the table as well, then you know what? You can stick your Bissouma, you can stick your 33-year-old Ivan Perisic and your Fraser Forster on a free transfer where the sun don't shine. And I don't want to have Arsenal fans coming to me and telling me that they're showing ambition and we're not. Okay? The window is young. There's still plenty of business to be done by both clubs, I'd imagine. But this just goes to show that in the last few days, when everybody's been moping around, moaning, complaining, whinging about Arsenal not doing business, they were working behind the scenes the whole time. And just because you didn't know about it doesn't mean it wasn't happening. It is way, way too early to get carried away one way or the other. I appreciate I'm probably getting a little bit carried away with this signing, but there's something exciting about the fact that it's come completely from nowhere. Like there's something exciting about that, and I'm really optimistic about what this player can, of course, bring to the side. What else did I have on him? I talked again a little bit about his role. Talked about the fact that he's played in a slightly different role to the one that he's been playing of late in the past, so that doesn't really worry me. And I think that Mikel Arteta is continuing to build the squad that we all know we probably need if we're going to go on and be competitive both in the Premier League and the Europa League next season. Age 22 years old as well, and that fits in nicely, doesn't it, with all the the recent signings that we've made in terms of what the goal is, what the ambition is, and sort of the direction in which we're moving. These are players that have not just the potential to grow and to develop and to take us onto a higher level, but these are also players that have a sell-on value, which means we won't be in the future, hopefully, in the situation that we found ourselves in recent times when trying to get rid of dead wood. We will be in a position where if we need to sell a major asset in order to raise funds, we've got a number of players that we can select from. There's so much positive about this type of profile of signing. And, 35 million euros nowadays, it isn't really all that much money. I know that sounds crazy because to me, it's a hell of a lot of money. But when you think about the ceiling that this player could have and the reputation he has in Portugal, he's been compared on numerous occasions to Bernardo Silva. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that comparison is accurate because I don't really know, if I'm being honest. My research on Fabio Vieira doesn't go beyond this afternoon. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be a complete expert. I just wanted to highlight some of the points that I found as I kind of dug into him a little bit, what it means in terms of where he'll fit in, what that means for the rest of the squad, what that means in terms of the options that we now have available to us. I thought the agent bit was interesting. The fact that it shows that we've got a relationship or can work with the type of agent that Arsenal would turn their nose up at before. As I said, Edu has worked with super agents before, but it's been one in particular. And that relationship has sparked much criticism, but he's shown an ability to go out and do deals with others as well, which is great. Look, there's over 1,100 of you watching right now, which is mind-blowing, to be honest with you. Thank you all so much for being with me. I'm going to go over to the chat box now, and I'm going to start taking your thoughts. I'm going to start taking your questions. Pop a little cue at the start as well of the question, so it's easier for me to pick out from the chat. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you guys to smash that like button. Let's set a goal of 500 likes. There's no reason why we can't achieve that, given that there is over 1,100 of you watching us right now. There's 300 likes on the board. Let's try and get that up to 500 throughout the remainder of the show. That would be amazing. Thank you so much. Going to take a very, very short pause, but be back in just a second, and we'll be taking your questions and your thoughts on the imminent signing of Fabio Vieira. Welcome back to part 2 of the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast, the Arsenal show, brought to you by 90 Min Football with me, your host, Harry Symeou. Great to see so many of you with me live at the moment. This might be a record in the last few months for sure. Anyway, I don't think it's the record ever. I think one of the shows that we did with Adrian Clark just went above the 1,100 mark, if I'm not mistaken. But this is fantastic. Thank you all so much. Okay, let's take some of your thoughts, some of your questions. Guest 2181 says, hi Harry, I saw Grizz and Scott's comments, two of my colleagues over at 90 Min, about Arsenal not needing a Vieira because of Odegaard and Emile Smith-Rowe. But I disagree, because I think we need more depth in that position. What are your thoughts? So it kind of ties into what I've been saying already, in that I think he gives us different options. And I think sometimes we've had a problem where Emile Smith-Rowe is still very much on an upward trajectory, still growing, still developing, or Bukayo Saka have been a little bit under par, and we've not really had faith in the players beyond that to come in and replace them or give us something when they've been running on empty. That's particularly been the case with Bukayo Saka. So I like the idea of adding this additional quality, this additional strength and depth. Does it suggest to me that Nicolas Pepe could be edging to closer towards an exit? I think it does. I think when you read between the lines, the fact that we've been able to put this type of money on a player that, as many of you have pointed out, wouldn't have been seen as a priority. I think that you have to assume that the plan is, or the idea is, to move Nicolas Pepe on this summer. Lynn, the lovely Lynn, how you doing, says, everyone kept saying yesterday about Basuma, but was Conte desperate because no other club were in for him like Vieira? Man U was in for him. Yeah, we've heard a lot of links with Fabio Vieira to Liverpool in the past, to Manchester United, to Spurs even, which makes me feel better about the signing as well, because clearly he's somebody that's been on people's radar previously, even if he wasn't necessarily on ours as Arsenal fans. Elliot Roberts says, so in your opinion, is the Rafinha deal dead? I'd be surprised if we got Rafinha as well. I really would. I think the Rafinha situation is a bit like the Vlahovic one, in that we all think he'd be a good fit. Leeds have got an asking price that I think Arsenal could afford if they really wanted to. But there's that problem. There's that issue whereby the player clearly has his heart on a move elsewhere. And I don't think Mikel Arteta wants players like that. I think he's worked so hard to rip the negativity out and rebuild. And work on this culture and this togetherness and this unity. And I think in a lot of instances last season, that made us much more competitive than we have been in years gone by. And I think that the fact that Rafinha has been so clear about the fact that he wants to go to Barca, even if that's not physically possible because of the money issues that they have, I still don't think that Mikel Arteta would then be willing to go and drop a shit ton of money on a player that he knows is kind of twerking for someone else in the way that Vlahovic was for Juve. So I don't think that deal is likely now. I didn't think it was more than 50% likely going into today, but off the back of this news, I think it's even less likely now. Okay, let's see what else we've got. Dial Squared 1971 says, I live in Portugal, Harry, and he's not that great. You have to watch the games, mate, and not YouTube stats. No, I'm not. And I've been very clear, my friend, that, what I know of him and what I've been able to kind of muster together to do like a reaction show this evening is limited, right? I haven't had all day, and I don't have the knowledge, and hopefully we'll be able to get somebody on the channel in the coming days that has that greater level of knowledge and understanding of the player. But he was on my radar as someone who's being talked about as a really big talent, as someone who could really move in the right direction. I mean, Aaron Ramsdale got relegated in consecutive seasons, come to Arsenal, gave a really great account of himself. I know he didn't play well for England the other night, but overall he's been a positive signing. Lots and lots of doubt about Ben White. I think overall he's been a really positive signing. I think what I would say here, mate, is that the majority of the signings that Edu and Arteta have made have been positive. The ones that have gone south and gone wrong have been low value signings for the most part. And they've managed to rectify those situations pretty quickly. So I think based on what they did last summer, based on the fact that there was clear improvement last season in that we were in the top four race until the final day, I think on that basis, they've earned the right for us as a fan base to go, we can have our opinion on X, Y, and Z, but we're going to take a step back and we're going to let you do what you think, and we're going to judge it based on what those players produce for us on the pitch. I think last summer for me personally was a massive learning curve. Don't judge people too soon. Don't judge a book necessarily by its cover. And I think I did that with some of the signings. Even if I didn't want to do it, I kind of subconsciously did it. I would look at players and I'd be a bit of a snob and I'd say, oh, he's playing in the Championship. I don't want him. He's not at the level required. And lo and behold, the goalkeeper that got relegated in consecutive seasons was probably one of Arsenal's standout players this season. And when you think about it that way, you got to be open-minded. And I'm, again, you've probably seen a lot more than I have if you watch Portuguese football regularly. But on the surface, this feels like a good move to me. And I'm excited because A, I quite like the idea of the signing. B, I think it kind of disproves a lot of the negativity that's been bandied around with regards to Arsenal not wanting to buy anyone, not having any deals at an advanced stage, not actually working on anything, and just sort of sitting there with their feet up. It just disproves so much of that stuff and so much of that nonsense that that's kind of part of the appeal to this and part of why I'm so happy about it. Let's see what else we've got. Zaki Hassan. Edu's making bad decisions on our signings. First, the American goalkeeper, a Brazilian waste, and this Portuguese nobody. I mean, come on. Look, I'm not massively enthused by the signing of Matt Turner, the goalkeeper from the MLS. I'm not. I'd be lying if I said that I think that is going to be a transformational signing and that is going to really, really improve the side moving forward. But what I would say is everything I've just said in response to the previous comment applies again. I'm not going to repeat it, but let's see how these players get on and we'll judge it then. I don't think you can judge a signing prior to their arrival. You can have an opinion, but it can't be a final judgment. Chris Pantelli says, hi, Harry. This, I believe, is a good signing, but I hope that we will still get Tielemans. Well, I'm sure a lot of the Arsenal journalists are sort of scrambling around now to try and get an update on Tielemans, try and find out a little bit more about Tielemans. But I would say that so many reliable sources, normally reliable sources, have been so big on the Tielemans thing that this is a deal that's expected to be done by the end of the month, that Arsenal are incredibly confident of completing it. All of that suggests to me that this is going to be unaffected. Now, I hope it's unaffected because I'd quite like to see both the players coming in. If Tielemans doesn't come in, maybe it's because Leicester are not budging on the price. Maybe it's because Arsenal don't feel that Yuri Tielemans is worth what Leicester are asking for, given his contractual situation. But I would say that Yuri Tielemans is absolutely worth it. And even if we have to go up to 30, 35 million, regardless of the fact he's got 1 year left on his contract, sometimes that's what you got to do. You want something, sometimes you got to overpay for it. That's the reality. So I'm hopeful that that deal will still happen. But I agree with you. It would kind of be like bittersweet getting Fabio Vieira if we then missed out on Yuri Tielemans, who I think a lot of us believe would add something to the side. Big hello to Alex, who says, we love your content, Harry. Thank you so much. As Curtis says, hit the likes, people. Yes, because there's more than 1,300. There's nearly 1,400 of you with us right now. And we're 25 likes away from our initial target, which was 500 likes. You know what? Let's bump the target up. Let's go to 700 likes because there's more than enough of you watching. So please do smash that like button if you haven't done so already. Become a member of the channel if you're enjoying the content and you want access to some exclusive bits coming your way, as well as access to our Discord server, and become part of the Chronicles of a Gooner community. There are so many brilliant people. If you're interested in that, please do consider being a member. Juno says, Harry, do you reckon we should send Lokonga on loan, perhaps to Burnley, to rejoin with company? When I look at Albert Lokonga, I see someone who's really tidy in possession, who was used to really having it his own way in Belgium. You know, when you watch some of the clips before he joined Arsenal, you'd often see the ball sort of come into his feet. You'd see him spin off of people. You'd see him turn, drive, ping passes from left to right. And he looks super confident. And obviously that was in the Belgian league and he had a lot more time and a lot more space. And what's happened since he's come to the Premier League is I think he's had a bit of a reality check. You know, he hasn't been able to take as much time on the ball. In fact, there's been a couple of occasions this season where he's lost the ball because he stood on the ball for too long and it's caused us problems. It's caused us damage. All of that is a learning curve. I'm not against the idea of Lokonga going out on loan, although I feel like being back in the Europa League gives him an opportunity to really kind of spread his wings and show himself and get settled and get comfortable and build his confidence up. For me, that's the perfect environment for him. The Europa League group stage is an environment I think that Sambi Lokonga could really thrive in. I think he's good enough to play at that level. I don't think he significantly weakens us by being in the side. So I would like to keep him at the club for those reasons. Had we not had Europa League football, had we been in the Champions League, for example, or not in Europe at all, I think I would have looked at this a little bit differently. But a move to the Championship, I don't think suits Lokonga. I don't think he's going to gain anything from getting clattered and smashed into week after week after week. I don't think he's that type of player. I think he needs to get a bit smarter. I think he needs to become a little bit more street smart with regards to the challenges that the Premier League brings. But I would keep him. I would keep him around the place. Here we go. We've got a Porto fan. Fantastic. Pedro, welcome. Cheers to you. And hello to everybody over in Portugal. If you're joining us from Portugal, there's got to be a few from Portugal. What do we say? Obrigado for the signing of, or for letting us have, I guess, Fabio Vieira. Thank you so much for joining us, mate. Really appreciate it. I know my Portuguese is not very good. He says, I'm a Porto fan and he's a great signing for sure. His technique is incredible and he's left-footed also. Brilliant stuff. That's what I like to read. Those are the types of comments I like to see. Gunner Deja Vu says, don't we have a ton of prospects and should be focusing on players at their peak for instant starting 11 impact? 100%. But this doesn't mean that we're not going to go and get players that are going to start. If we go and get Tielemans and we do go and get Jesus, both of them are in the starting lineup for me. So you've added two players into the team to play from the off. Add to that we might get a defender in who could play in the absence, for example, of Kieran Tierney or of Tomiyasu or whatever, if it is Aaron Hickey that we're talking about. we could end up with 3 new players in the starting lineup. And the truth is, for me, I don't think that the starting lineup is a million miles away. I actually think our starting lineup, when everybody's fit and available, is actually quite strong. And I'd back it to give most teams a game. The problem has been that we've had big injuries at key moments. That's really, really cost us, and we've struggled. So, yeah. Yeah, I get your point, but I think that we will look to address the starting 11 as well. What else have we got? Just scrolling through the comments. Apologies if I miss some of them, because there are so many that sometimes they go under the radar. And with over 1,500 of you with us live right now, things are getting crazy in the chat box. Carl says, finally catching this live. Normally listen via Spotify while walking the dog. Cheers to you, Carl. All the best. Good to see a lot of people in the last few weeks that listen on the audio crossing over to YouTube as well. What else have we got? Whoops. Lots of concern about the Tielemans deal. That is a big sort of talking point that's come off the back of this announcement. It's not an announcement. It's not done yet, completed 100%, but this news that this deal is edging ever closer. Big hello to Big Fat Souvlagi. I do love a Souvlagi, I've got to say. He says, I live in Greece, and I remember when people were saying Yaya Toure is not as good because he was playing for Olympiacos. I remember those days as well. In fact, I remember watching Yaya Toure in the flesh for Arsenal in a game against Barnet, a pre-season friendly when he was with Beveren, and it was a trial for Yaya Toure. And I remember coming away from that game thinking, meh, nothing special. And look what he turned out to be. Sometimes managers and coaches and scouts, they have this ability to just find something magic in someone, spot something that they feel they can work with, that they feel they can refine, and that they can feel they can use to elevate that player to the next level. And sometimes you've got to trust them to do that. What else have we got? VT says, hey, Harry, what do you think Vieira will bring to the side that Odegaard doesn't? It's really hard for me to say, because as I've said to you guys, my research on this player is not very, it hasn't been over a long period of time. He's not been someone I've been watching. He's not been someone that, I know a massive amount about. And I'm hoping, as I say, to find someone who can come on and join us and talk about that. And maybe they'll be able to answer this question a little bit better. But for me, it's not really about what he would bring to the side when Odegaard, what he would bring to the side that Odegaard doesn't. It's more about him being able to bring that to the side when Odegaard can't. And I think sometimes we've seen it over the course of the season. We had games where Martin Odegaard was just not at 100%. He went through a little bit of a dip and he struggled. And Arsenal struggled as a consequence and as a result of that. So I think to have another option who can come in and be that guy that unlocks the defense, that plays those key passes, as I pointed out, he plays tons of key passes. He does that with a real regularity. 16 assists is way more than Martin Odegaard produced as well. I know they're different leagues, different teams, all of that stuff. But it just feels like he can be an additional provider. And I felt like at times last season we were too reliant on Odegaard as a sole provider. So to have another one would be key. And also the fact that he could potentially come in and give Bukayo Saka a breather from time to time, come on in a game. We've got 5 subs next season, as I mentioned earlier, which means that the more options, the more ability as a manager you have to change a game. So when you take all of these things into consideration, I think that's why I'm quite, excited, positive about the idea of this deal. Graham Beecroft says, is that Retsina you're drinking, Harry? No, it's not. It's just some white wine that I found in the fridge, to be honest. I couldn't even tell you. I think it might be, is it Barefoot? Is that a make? Barefoot? Something like that? Don't know. I'll check when I go inside. I'll let you guys know. Look, we've hit the 1,500 mark. How are we doing on the likes? Let's check it out. 606 at the moment. Come on, let's get up to that target of 700. I'll be so chuffed. I'll be so chuffed if we can do that. And remember, we're going to be giving away a couple of Arsenal shirts in the next few weeks that I promised you guys going into the back end of last season when we hit the 20k subscriber mark. So keep giving me reasons with likes to shower you back with gifts. JW says, I'm just looking forward to having another Vieira to sing about. He comes from Portugal. He plays for Arsenal. That goes already. There you go. What a song. What a song. Let's all the hosts for the Arsenal podcast are having a first proper signing celebration with a little drink. Is that right? Why not? We deserve it for all the negative stuff we've had to talk about over the last few weeks. We got a couple of super chats that I just want to get to as well before I lose them. Luis Riveros says, first live show, joining from New Brunswick, Canada. I usually listen on Spotify, but glad to be here. Harry, what does this mean for our other signings? Well, first of all, Lewis, cheers to you. Welcome to the live stream, mate. Really, really appreciate you being here. As I've said to you, I don't think that this really, if anything, you can look at this in two ways, Lewis, right? You can either look at it and go, oh no, we've spent 35 million euros on a player that I don't really think we needed, or that I don't think was a priority. Now we have less money to do the business that I feel we need. Or you can look at it as, well, actually, maybe Arsenal are willing to go big again this summer, contrary to some of the recent reports that we've heard, because they have been willing to put 35 million euros on a player that isn't necessarily, in a lot of people's opinions, and obviously we don't know what Arsenal's priority list looks like exactly, but we can guess, we can predict, we can try and gauge that. So you can look at it that actually it's a sign that we are planning to go big again this summer, which is amazing. Deflected Mind says, I remember the days of Harry having 50 to 60 listeners on a live session. You've come a long way, Harry. Mate, it's crazy. You know what? And that's thanks to every single one of you, and especially to the people that have been there from the beginning, because the channel is growing, the podcast as well. Outside of YouTube, the podcast is just huge. It's so much bigger than I thought it could ever be. We're probably talking about equal size in terms of the subscriptions that we've got over there as we do on YouTube, which is amazing. And as I always say to you guys, like I've been really, really lucky in the last couple of years. Like I've got to do all sorts of cool things in different bits of work. And this has been the basis of it, though. This has been where it's all come from. This has been where I've got the opportunities from. This is the core. This is the main, how do you want to call it? It's like the center of the universe of my work. So I want to say a massive thank you to all of you guys. And I've actually got something on the wall that someone printed off for me when I got to 5K subs. That was August 2020. So we have done basically 15,000 subs in 2 years, which is amazing. I think that's amazing. Big hello to Fort Lauderdale Gooner Craig again, who says, Harry, you have to barbecue for everyone in the chat. You know what, mate? Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Look, I'm buzzing. I'm delighted. I'm really, really happy with this, and I'm glad that it's kind of it's not that I look at the signing and I go, oh wow, this is a game changer. This means we're going to go on and win the Premier League. It's not that. It's that it's proved loads of people wrong who said that Arsenal were doing nothing. It's that he looks like a good player. It's that it looks like he will give us additional options in an area where I think we've struggled for options at times in a number of areas. So it's a smart signing in that he covers a few bases. But also, I think it serves as a little bit of a teaser as to what Arsenal might go on and do this summer. And I'm choosing to look at it with a positive spin as opposed to a negative one. And that's my prerogative. Big hello to guest 2181 who's finished his A levels today. Congratulations, mate. Says lovely to listen to the podcast live. Lovely to have you with us as well. Look, before we go, because I am going to go soon, because we've been going for about 45 minutes. I'm tired. It's been a long day. I'm hot. I'm agitated. I want to have a nice cold shower, sit down, pour another one of these, put my feet up and chill out for a bit before another busy day tomorrow. But what I want you guys to do is spam the chat with where you're joining us from. Spam the chat with where you're at. And I would love to give as many of you as I possibly can a shout out in the last sort of 5 minutes of the show. We've also got a special like anniversary, I think. Hold on. Yeah. Delisu says, Hi, Harry. In retrospect, do you not think the Europa League was a blessing in disguise, given where we are and our rebuilding project? It's hard to say that because I really wanted Champions League football. And I do think it would have opened additional doors for us in terms of what we could do, etc., etc. But I'm not going to say it's a positive because people would jump on me for that. And I don't really believe that, but I do think it just relieves a bit of pressure on us, at this stage. And maybe we weren't quite ready for that pressure that comes with the Champions League. It's not to say I didn't want to be in it and I would have been delighted if we were, but just trying to look at this, the silver lining of it all, I guess. Also, we've got a new member. A big welcome to John Wells. John, thank you so much, mate. It is so appreciated. Great to have you with us. Welcome to the family. And if you have just become a member of the Chronicles of a Gooner, make sure you click on the community tab, get the Discord server link, and come and join us in there for a daily chat. Look, loads and loads of amazing places where people are joining us from. I'm not going to be able to get through all of them because there's a ton, but let's pick out a few. We've got Cyprus, Texas, Devon, Toronto, Chicago, Scotland, Surrey, Switzerland, Nigeria, Colorado in the US, Washington in the US, London, Vancouver, Jamaica, Newcastle, California, North Carolina, Birmingham, Los Angeles, Bali in Indonesia, Green Bay, Wisconsin, Lagos in Nigeria. We've got India, Las Palmas, St. Louis. What else have we got? Austria, Chicago, Zimbabwe, Western Supermare, Canada, North Korea, Georgia. I don't think you are in North Korea, are you? Stroud, Gloucestershire, Singapore. Oh, man, so many. Bogota in Colombia. We've got Den Haag in the Netherlands, Nicaragua, Scarborough, Ontario. Big Greek community there. Big shout out to all of those. Bangladesh, DC, Camden, Newmarket, South London. Ayathuka says that you're drinking the wine the missus uses to cook with. It was an unopened bottle. I don't think she's used this one to cook with. I know where those ones are because they're on the worktop. Yeah, it's not them, I promise. Big shout out to Eastern Hunter, who says, I like listening to you because you know what you're talking about. Seriously, I listen to a lot of you guys, but you and Tom can't fault you. Thank you so much. And a big shout out to Tom as well, who's not feeling too well at the moment, I don't think. So wish him a speedy recovery. Oh, man, we've got so many places. Palestine, Zambia, Canada. We've got Palestine, Nepal, Sri Lanka, South Africa, Ethiopia. Big hello to Clifford as well, who's joining us. And he says he's been listening from the beginning. Sierra Leone, India, Ethiopia, Minnesota. Oh, wow. Just amazing. Amazing. Sri Lanka as well. Stockport too. Look, thank you all so much. We're going to leave it there. It looks like Arsenal are closing in on their first major signing of the summer. Fabio Vieira of FC Porto will be joining the club in a deal believed to be worth 35 million euros plus add-ons. That deal is edging closer towards completion. A medical is expected to happen over the next couple of days. We've managed to hit 700 likes. Happy days. Thank you all so much, but keep smashing the like button if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I'll catch you all tomorrow with another edition of the Press Review. Until then, take care. Goodbye.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.